Shalom, Kol Halayim, Layahu Ba'Hashem Yahushai, Ba'Hashem Racha HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone, who rule well, who I learned this truth from, and the salutations and blessings unto you hopeful elect out there. May Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahushai increase your faith in these times. This is a lesson dealing with what is iconoclasm, because, as the time goes on, there's new brothers in this thing. And, they hear from time, I'm sure you hear from time to time the word or term by various camps, GMS camps, iconoclasm, right? During the Renaissance period, right? So I thought I'd do a basic video on what is iconoclasm, so the first thing is the actual word, right? That's the, the principle, right? The first to break down is the word. So the word iconoclasm from the is a noun 1797 in reference to an act of breaking or destroying idols physically, figuratively from 1858 in reference to beliefs, cherished institutions. So when you look up that word now, iconoclast, right, a breaker or destroyer of images, right, because the word icon means image, ikono, right, from the Greek. See, it says right here from the Greek, late Greek, icon, meaning image, klastis, breaker, right, or to break. So iconoclasm, it actually occurred, throughout various kingdoms and various empires for different reasons, right? But when we speak about iconoclasm, we're specifically referencing the time period of the Renaissance, which the Renaissance, you can say Esau's rebirth, right? Because that's what Renaissance means, or to bring back again, to be reborn, started from 1325. 1325 and 1350 were very key years. And the reason being is when you look those years up, 1325 there was two plagues, right? They call it the Black Death or the Black Plague. But there were two of them, which was the pneumonic and the bubonic plague. Now, I forget which one came first. I can't remember which one came first. But if you look it up, 1325 was one, either the pneumonic or the bubonic, and then 1350 was another one, and that started to wipe out Israelites. Basically, that was a plague. But that's when you can say the Renaissance, the rebirth, kicked in, because that's when Esau came in, basically started to come in very heavily. Not that they weren't in before, because remember, Esau was in the caves at the beginning. Esau was pushed back completely in the caves. But there was a time period with the Khazars, right, where they actually had a kingdom. Not to say that they were clean or anything, but they had a kingdom, the Khazarian Empire. And then you had certain Byzantine kings. When you look it up, they actually started to marry these women, the Khazarian women, and they were so bugged out. Some of them would take on the Khazar's woman last name. They would take on her last name. But then you had Edomites coming in and being laborers and cleaners and different low level jobs. But that's how, after when the plague started coming in, that's when Esau can come in headstrong, and then take over. So those are key years: 1325, 1350, and then of course the 1400s. That history speaks for itself. That's when the term Renaissance really is vivid, right? But like I said, that this iconoclasm, this was a thing that Esau did actually throughout various times, right? So this is from newworldencyclopedia.org. Iconoclasm down here, it says, is the deliberate destruction of religious icons or monuments, usually for religious or political motives. It is also a name given to the Christian heresy of the 8th and 9th century, which caused a major controversy in the Eastern Roman Empire and provoked one of a series of schisms between Constantinople and Rome. And that's a big, that was a part of history where Jake was in rulership, of course, but they argued through different worldly or man's traditions, that certain icons shouldn't be on wood, or you shouldn't have the cross. That was a different kind of iconoclasm for various different kinds of reasons. Now Esau's reason for his iconoclasm, his period of breaking of images, is because those images depicted dark-skinned people, Israelites. So he had to take that down, right? But when you go into history, Esau's been doing that. Esau did that in the Greek time, in the Greek Empire, with Serapis Christus, making an image of himself as God. And that's why when you have that scripture as well, First Maccabees 3:48, right? It says, "And laid open the book of the law," which is what the book of the law. If you want to be technical, is the Tawara, the Torah, the first 5 books, right? Wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images, and they did that with Serapis Christus, which was really the I believe the Ptolemies, right? The Ptolemaic dynasty. They were basically setting themselves up as the Most High, and that's showing you they're the same people when they came back during the Renaissance period, because they were doing the same damn thing. Now, when you go down in this article, right? Like for example, look at this image, icon of the Second Seventh Ecumenical Council in Moscow, right? Like in Russia, there's a lot of icons, but this is the part I'm going to read. Actually, is going to deal with Russia. 1 second. Secularist iconoclasm. Iconoclasm was also a hallmark of the secularist movements, such as the French Revolution and the communist revolutions of Russia and China. During the French Revolution, anti-royalists and anti-Catholic mobs vented their anger against Catholic shrines, in the process destroying both religious art and statues and paintings of kings, So there's a lot of, because we know that the French, which the French goes back to the Franks, which Israelites were mixed among them, the ancient Franks even, right? But them French, right, that was all Jake ruling. That was all Israelites ruling. Like you had a famous icon in the church of Charlemagne, which I have that picture, and he's completely dark skinned, right? But then there's later period of the same icon, but you see the dark flesh is basically like washed away, man. You can only see pigments of it. But there's an image I have of him completely being dark skinned. So in France, you already know when it says the statues and paintings of kings, right? You already know what was going down, right? But here's a point. It says during and after the Russian Revolution, which you can look that revolution up. That was all Amalek, with the communism, with the guy Trotsky, and what was the main guy? Karl Marx, which that wasn't his real name, right? Those are all Amalekites, small hats. That was a small hat movement. So during and after the Russian Revolution, communist authorities encouraged the widespread destruction of religious imagery, which they considered a key means of perpetuating Bourgeois, I don't know how to say that word, but that word basically means like middle class ideology, right? Because communism is basically you have an elite, and then you have the working class, which is all equal, which there's people that believe in that crap, that system can work. It's basically fascism, and if you're paying attention, the middle class is basically gone. Basically, you people are about to hit a new lower quality of life. You have to get used to a diminished quality of life. You gotta choose between heat or eat, right? That was the slogan last year in Europe. So this time in winter, you're not going to be able to afford to heat or eat. You cannot heat or eat. Groceries, hydro bills, gas for your car. The quality of life is going down to the point where the middle class is basically extinguished, right? People are up to their head in debt, So it says, preventing the masses of people from adopting the socialist values of the state. So that was really the point on that in the Russian Revolution, because there's so many icons in Russia still to this day that can clearly depict dark skinned people. How many do you think they destroyed? How many were there? You know, because they really did, man. When you look up the Russian Revolution, they killed tens of millions of people, which Jake was among them. Right? And basically, as you see, they were destroying icons, religious icons and statues and paintings, right? So I'm gonna go into this book I had. It's titled "The Art and Architecture of Medieval Russia," right, by Arthur Voice. Okay, and this is from page 95. It says mosaics and frescoes. It says, although only a small part of the original cathedral and its mosaics have survived, there is still much to be admired in the imposing dimensions of its interior, its fine proportions, and the luxuriant mosaics and frescoes. Many of the latter, still in a good state of preservation after 900 years, are wonderful specimens of a great age in ecclesiastical art. But the work of restoration, 1853 to 54, while approached by Professor F.G. Solnsti with pity and respect for the original, was executed rather crudely. Many of the frescoes were disfigured, and in the 1880s, some of the mosaics were also subjected to restoration. And in the process, right, the original elements were covered over with paint. What the hell does that mean? That's iconoclasm. That's how Esau got down. That's how Esau got down, man. What does that mean? And in the process, the original elements were covered over with paint. Now there's more, right? This is page 228. It says, while Novgorod, which is a city in the Ukraine actually, right, imbued with old traditions, was adhering to dark flesh, right? Tints, idealization of expression, simplicity of composition, and close harmony between its figures and background. Moscow strove for picturesqueness, used warmer colors, more accurately, right? That was actually, that was the point on that. But basically, it was basically opposite to what Moscow was doing at that time. But I mentioned here was it Novgorod was adhering to dark flesh. So all these little points that Esau brings out, he doesn't really want to come out and say it, but he's saying it. Like that dude Arthur McRitchie in Ancient Modern Brits, he admitted, right? Because he had like 3 volumes, I think, or 2 or 3 volumes of that book, maybe more. But he said, look, my original intent was to disprove, that Negroes basically were in rulership. But after I dug up all this research, I went into, all this history, I did my due diligence. I actually proved the exact opposite against my original my original goal. So in this book, right, you have this icon here, right? It's black and white, but it says the Church Militant Moscow School 16th century, which is the 1500s, because even though we tell you brothers that look during like I said, the 1325, 50, 1400s, Esau came into rulership, that doesn't mean Esau right away all of Europe was under Esau's rulership. You had some certain places like Russia where they still had Israelites ruling past the 1600s, but the description of this icon, and I got it in color, but I'm going to read the description, right, because it mentions who's in it. It says, this huge horizontal icon was originally intended to serve as a decoration for the walls of Ivan the Terrible's palace, who was an Israelite, because you hear about Ivan the Terrible. And that name Ivan, I believe, basically, when you look it up, it's the Russian transliteration for Jacob, if I'm not mistaken. It says at present it is in the at present it is in the Treti Yakov gallery. Its central theme, the triumph of the cross over the crescent, is closely related to the religious and political climate of the 1550s. Essentially, it is a historical picture depicting the final phase of the war with the Muslim Khanate of Kazan. It says the flame enveloped heathen city, the homeward bound march of the victorious troops, and the apotheosis of Ivan. Down here it says they are headed by the reincarnated spirits, right? So that shows you how, they know about regeneration or reincarnation, right? Of the Russian warrior princes Alexander Nevsky and Dmitry Donskoy, right? It says the middle section of the composition depicts a column of foot soldiers surrounding the Roman Emperor Constantine I on horseback with the cross held aloft. So when you look at the image here, this is the color. Here's the cross. So that's Constantine I. So they put him in there because, like I said, these were all Israelites, man. Basically, right? Down here it says this is followed by another infantry column led by sainted princes believed to be Vladimir, Boris, and Gleb. It says the painter strongly dramatized the approach of the procession to Holy Moscow, personifying the celestial city. Most conspicuous are the figures of Archangel Michael and Tsar, or King, Ivan the Terrible. The Archangel, the chief of heavenly hosts, is presented astride a winged red horse, galloping at the head of the procession. Back of him is Ivan on horseback, march-hailing his troops. He is depicted as a young, handsome knight in shining armor, waving a red banner. Right? When you look that up, where's that red banner? Right here. So that's Ivan the Terrible right here. And that's Michael. So these are all dark-skinned people, man. All the soldiers, all the saints, all the troops, the princes. See, you have the crowns on their head. So these are the icons. This is what we're talking about, man. So they didn't have time. So if they were destroying these things and destroying and painting over them, and there's still many that survived, clearly, like this is clearly, you can just see, man. And people tell you, or so-called authorities will say, oh, the reason why they're dark is because in the church you have the smoke from the candle, from the candles, and you have the incense that the priest walks around, the incense, the frankincense. Well, you have a bunch of other colors here that are intact. You have the red banners, you have the gold in the background. You have the red circles here, the horse. Everything is in color, man. Everything is on point. So I just wanted to show that, right? Let's go to Revelation 20:1. And I saw an angel coming down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. This is Yahushai, right? That bottomless pit is referring to Europe. The key basically just there's a key and there's a chain. One represents, the key basically represents you can lock or unlock something, and the chain represents servitude, right? Or bondage, captivity. Verse 2, and he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. With the old Roman Empire, you have the so-called Holy Roman Empire take place, and the one kingdom transition. Esau's kingdom transitioned into Jacob's basically for a time. But even though Jacob was bugged out, it was still Israelites ruling, right? And verse 3, and cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that he must be loosed a little season. See, so this man's job was to deceive, right? And the word deceive here, planao, which means to cause to stray, to lead astray, lead aside from the right way. And this world is completely backwards, bugged out, completely morally, consciously, every which way you want to talk about is bugged out, is backwards, right? To go astray, wander, roam about, metaphor, to lead away from the truth. This man's job was to lead you away from the truth, man. To lead into error, to deceive. People are walking in error, man. Look, of heretics, to be led into error and sin. That's what this man's job is. And Yahushua bound him and set a seal, said, look, you're shut up for 1,000 years, man. From if you want to get technical, 325, 330 AD to around 1325, 1350. That's why I mentioned those dates, because those are the dates of the Great Plague, the Black Plague, the Black Death, as they called it, right? That he should deceive the nations no more till the 1,000 years shall be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosed a little season, right? And then, hold on. We got to go back. Job 9:24. Right? It says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? You know? So that covering, as we know, I just showed, right? I just showed people that, look, the word covering is kasa, which means to cover, conceal, hide. So this man hid the truth, and iconoclasm was one of the big ways. There was many other ways. I just pointed out one way. You know, how this man deceived, how this man led you into error, led you into sin. You know? The philosophies that he pushes. There's many ways how he covers, but that main way is that iconoclasm. That's why when we bring out these icons and different information about the Dark Ages and who ruled, you know, people look at you like you have 3 heads, man. They look at you like you're completely bugged out. They look at you like you need to be up in Cam H, man. Up in the mental hospital. Right? Because they're really deceived. They're bamboozled. They're remember, they're wondering after the beast. They're wondering. They're admiring the beast. So anyway, I hope you're edified. I want to say Kal Halalim, La Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahushai, Ba'Hashem Rucha HaKodash, double honors to the apostles of GMS who rule well, and salutations and blessings unto you hopeful elect.